officers on the street are engaging with a whole new level of people, right? People are constantly changing, and you've got a lot of younger cops that are interacting in situations that they haven't been in before. And a part of that too is I feel like this digital era that we're living in, it's people don't have a lot of face-to-face time. And so when they get in these situations, they're instantly heightened in their emotions and trying to figure out, what do they need to do? And it's learning to, one, communicate with people, but then also listening at the same time, solving a situation without having to do any excessive force. So it's basically that human interaction is what's going to get your best chance to de-escalate a situation without flying off the handle and being the next news story or something like that, because that's the last thing we want. Because if you have your basics in place of how just basic human interaction works to de-escalate a situation, then you're going to be more successful in the end.
This is Blue Leader Nation. Blue Leader Nation. We're here to develop those men and women in law enforcement who want to be respected leaders and to mold you into becoming a legendary leader. If it's leadership, personal growth, and self-development, we're talking about it. Whether you're new or a veteran, you've found your new home. This is the Blue Leader Nation. Now, here's your host, Dr. Ed Palace.
Hello and welcome to the Blue Leader Nation podcast. I'm your host, Ed Palace, and after quite a few technical difficulties, we are going to try this again. My guest today is Katie Armstrong. She is the CEO of PATC, and we are going to talk about training on the thin blue line. Hi, Katie. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I want to hear more about PATC, but before we get into that, can you give us a little bit about your origin story? Tell us, how did you end up being the CEO of PATC?
Yeah, so I started with PATC about 8 years ago, not even like a year out of college. I worked for Disney post-grad and then came back to Indy. We're based out of Indianapolis, and kind of fell into it. It's the people right, that you kind of just find those connections, right? And happened to meet the previous owner, and started doing marketing, then fell into operations. And then at the end of 24, I bought the company from him, and have been just kind of in a whirlwind in the last year and a half now of taking this thing and flipping it on its head.
Wow. Okay. So this company's been around for 30, my math is horrible, 39 years, 40 years in total,
Yeah,
something like that?
Some in the mid 80s. So yeah, something about that.
Okay. And so tell us a little bit more about PATC. What do you do? What do you teach about? Or what do your instructors teach about? Because it's a lot.
Yeah, so we have a wide range of classes. It could be anything from hostage negotiation, leadership, internal affairs, wellness. I like to tell people we've got a catalog of over 600 courses with about 60 plus instructors. So we can do just about anything and modify anything and constantly updating curriculum as policing is changing. So we're just constantly growing and keeping our finger on the pulse of what's happening to make sure that the training is relevant and current, and you're getting it from people who have lived it and not just have theories about it or have, seen what they've done on TV. Maybe they've touched it in part of their policing world, but these are guys who actually have lived it and can tell you exactly what you need to know.
So it's cops teaching other cops, in other words.
Absolutely. There's everyone that we have on there is all former law enforcement, except for sometimes we have some legal classes, and those are usually prosecutors, attorneys, things like that. So I
guess we'll give the attorneys a pass on that one. They can't be all things. So, all right. So here's a question from your position as CEO. Where are the biggest training gaps in law enforcement right now? What do we need to focus on?
So at least from my perspective, it's a lot of those smaller agencies. I mean, their funding's small. They can't really get out there. I mean, average size of a police department that I didn't even realize until I got into this is about 15 to 20 people. And that's your middle Americas. And it's not just the training itself, but it's the access to training. And so we try to meet them where they're at and make sure that they're getting exactly what they need, whether it's in person or online, making it affordable for them. But the highest demand that we're seeing in courses right now is a lot of de-escalation, a lot of frontline leadership, yeah, some of our tried and true classes are like our hostage and detective classes. So that's where kind of the training need seems to be right now, but it can change from year to year. Like some years our field training officer class is really, really hot, and then some years it's not. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. We just ebb
Hmm.
and flow with it.
Okay. All right. Well, you're speaking my language. I was a former hostage negotiator. I'm a big leadership nerd. So everything you're saying, it's kind of got me salivating a little bit. So, um, so when it comes to, so you said the magic word, de-escalation. That's been the buzzword in our profession for, oh my gosh, what, 10 years now? What is it that cops or maybe even command staff, because they're the ones that are going to be approving this, what do they need to know about, for instance, your de-escalation classes? Why is that important for people of rank or even probably more especially frontline officers to take those?
Yeah, it's a lot of what we're seeing is officers on the street are engaging with a whole new level of people, right? People are constantly changing. And you've got a lot of younger cops that are interacting in situations that they haven't been in before. And a part of that too is I feel like this digital era that we're living in, it's people don't have a lot of face-to-face time. And so when they get in these situations, they're instantly heightened in their emotions and trying to figure out, what do they need to do, and it's learning to one communicate with people, but then also listening at the same time, solving a situation without having to do any excessive force. So it's basically that human interaction is what's going to get your best chance to de-escalate a situation without flying off the handle and being the next news story or something like that, because that's the last thing we want. Because if you have your basics in place of how just basic human interaction works to de-escalate a situation, then you're going to be more successful in the end.
It's so funny. It seems like, and I'm old, so I came on in the mid 90s, but it seems like back then the basic human interaction was that's just kind of how we lived. And when I'm teaching, when generations come up, this always comes up, and how Gen Z just doesn't know how to communicate. So have we kind of reverted backwards to the point where we're now teaching Gen Z, like you said, basic human interaction that the Xers and Boomers had kind of grown up with?
A little bit. We're seeing that a little bit. You've got, some of your career hard-nosed cops that, have have gotten it, but they're saying that some of these newer guys coming in, they just don't know how to interact. And, I can say that from my perspective, because I am younger and I see it with just seeing my friends. Like, we don't know how to talk to each other outside of our phones anymore. And so then you throw us in a situation where we have to engage and then elevate that times 10. That's really hard. And so it's bringing it back to the basics, cutting things down to dry bones and building off of that. And then once they've got it, they've got it. It's just re-engaging with that, younger officer, and then they feel comfortable in the streets. So that's our biggest thing, is making sure that they just know how to talk to anybody, not just, their command staff or something like that. You got to be able to talk to everybody, right?
Yeah, just, grabbing a cup of coffee at Starbucks or Dunkin' or something, and somebody comes up to talk to you, just having those basic human interactions.
Huh?
It's so funny. I
Exactly.
feel like we've come full circle.
Yeah, the
So
history
for
to see to repeat itself, right?
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. Yeah. You got to be a friend of history to understand history. So here's a question for you. You mentioned, the average size, police agency is 15 to 20. And in my experience, it might even be a little smaller than that. And I know budgets are often tight and budgets are small. So what is your message to, let's say I'm the chief or a sheriff of a small agency. I want to get my people training. I know these skills are vital. I know you offer valuable training, but my budget's really tight. What message do you have for them?
So I tell them, anytime that we're dealing with somebody that has tight budgets, like, we get asked all the time, like, I want to bring a training in house, but I can't afford it. Well, don't worry. Like, we'll make something work. We always make something work. Whether it's we do something hybrid, we've got a lot of instructors that'll teach live online so that you don't have to worry about the extra travel budgets or in hotels and all that stuff. We can do that. Or anybody that hosts any of our classes automatically gets 2 free seats, and then sometimes it gets up to
Okay.
5. So we give them that perk too of, like, just give us a place to host it. If it's convenient for you, we'll come to you. We've got no problem going anywhere in the country that you need us to go, because the training is important and we make sure that you get that. And that's priority number 1. Just make sure you get trained. So if there's something we can do to flex to make sure that you get that, we'll do it every single time. So budgets may seem tight, but there's ways that we can make that work.
I like it. I like it. So we talked about communication. We talked a little bit about hostage negotiation. Any other skills? And I know you guys. I think you said you over 600 different courses. Any other skills that our command staff, our sheriffs, our chiefs of police need to be focusing on for their line level or maybe even first line supervisors?
I mean, I think it's just keeping your pulse on what's happening, like, in the world in general. Policing is constantly changing, and especially now that we're adding in AI and, you've got, crypto's becoming hot. I mean, it's not hot again, but it's hot. Any of those, online scams, AI integration, we're not close to being RoboCop yet, but we're getting there. So you gotta get prepared for that and make sure your first line officers are trained on that because even it's just report writing, you can run anything through a chat gpt or something and get a report, but your problem's going to be if somebody just relies on that without actually reading it and making sure that the information is accurate. We're going to see some of that come up here soon, so we're trying to curb that by preparing those officers for what the future of policing is going to look like, and it's not even the next 5 years, it's probably next year.
Yeah. I think, isn't Axon already running a program where it will generate a report just off the body worn camera video and audio?
Yep, absolutely. They're already on that.
So then the question is, do you think at some point will we lose any type of like actual writing skills from our officers? I mean, and I think you nailed it. It's not 5 years down the road. It's probably next year or at most 2 years from now. So then let's fast forward 5 or 10 years. Are our cops, our deputy sheriffs, are they going to know how to write reports then?
Yeah, it's questionable at this point. I mean, that's the beauty of it, and then the negative side of it is that we may become too reliant on technology. And it's you got to stick with the basics, just like we talked about with basic communication skills. You got to know the basics of the writing. You got to know the basics of how to communicate. Um, you know, analyzing an incident. All of those things are never going to leave. Because once we lose that, then you're going to lose the whole plot, and then everything's just going to go downhill. So staying firm in what you know of the history of policing, never lose that, but also be prepared for what's coming next.
Nice. So what should agencies be doing now that they're not preparing? Like, what should they be doing differently today that they weren't doing yesterday?
Good question. I mean, it's just a matter of keeping up with what is happening. I mean, you've got your finger on your pulse, but you got to also use your network too, because some of these agencies are well tuned in with what's going on, but then you've got other agencies who may know a little bit more. Like for instance, like this last week, I was up in Lafayette, Indiana, meeting with that department. They've got a brand new facility. They've got all these high tech equipment, touch point stuff. But then they're talking about their partnerships with other agencies, and some of them don't have those resources. So they need to be able to communicate with each other and build those relationships. So you're not on it on your own. Like that's kind of where some of those smaller agencies get lost. Like people don't think about them, but they're fighting crime too. They're doing the exact same thing. So, you know, the upper command needs to stay in tuned, with their current community, but also use your resources around you.
So it's funny you mentioned upper command. One of the battles I often have, both when I do my own training or when I teach for like FBI leader, that's where I teach a lot, is you have a sergeant who has been authorized to go through a first line supervisor school, even though they've been a sergeant for like 5 years. They want to take the next lieutenant's exam, but yet they're told, nope, you can't take a command level course until you hit that command rank. And I tend to think we're doing it backwards. I tend to think we should be putting people through like first line supervisor before they actually get the 2 or the 3 stripes. Same thing with the command rank. Are you seeing that same type of pushback?
I do. I see it from time to time. A lot of what we're seeing, at least in the students that are attending our classes for those next level sort of trainings, they're told to be there, and a lot of them are new on the job. But we do see some of those that are proactive about training and have said that they've told their command staff that they want to keep progressing in their career. They want to do these things. So some of them are taking the initiative, and their agencies are investing in them. But there is majority of them, you're right, are new to the job, and so it's we're throwing them in there without ever having done it before, and they're learning on the road, right? So
Yeah.
it's a little bit mixture of both.
I just think it's been my pet peeve that I think across the country, we do a really good job at entry level training. Like we can always get better. And I'm partially biased because I was in charge of our training and education division at the agency I retired from for several years. And the instructors there were just so passionate about getting feedback and making the next training even better than this training. And they were cutting edge, and it wasn't just, virtual reality. It was actually role play, that kind of thing, simunition. So I think we're doing a really good job. And in most places, the average police academy is, I don't know, 4 to 6 months. And then you get another two months in FTO. So we do a pretty good job, but then they get promoted and we're like, good luck, you'll figure it out. And maybe we'll send you to a training class in the next year or two. How do we combat that mindset?
I think you got to be in the mindset of you're always learning. Like you're learning from every situation that you're in. You're taking something away from every incident that you come across. But, it's also good to learn from people who, don't necessarily come from your department. You're learning from people from around the country with different lived experiences. And,
Yeah.
there may be some experiences that you've had similarities to, and then you kind of have like that, oh, okay, I get that because that resonates with me. But then it's also that, well, I've never experienced that before, so that's good to know. And we see it all the time, like even with our hostage class, we have had several instances where students will come in for the week and then they get back to their department and the next day they're in a situation, they're already applying what they've learned and they're texting our instructors like, man, this wouldn't have been successful without you, or, I wouldn't have thought to do this had I not come to training. So you have to constantly be preparing for what's next and putting the training opportunities out there, right? 'Cause you never know what you're going to learn until you go, right? And then that benefits
Yeah.
that benefits the officer, that benefits the agency, and that benefits the community.
Yeah. I got to wonder if that chief or that sheriff realizes that whatever that small investment he or she made in that officer, where the story you just told, where, the next day or the week after they come to work and then they apply that, how much money did they just save in some sort of, use of force situation or in custody death situation where this, I think very small investment in training just paid off in dividends. And that's the type of thing I think we need to be pushing out more and more, because it seems like, at least in my experience, when there's budget cuts, what's the first area that gets cut? Training.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. All right. Well, if you could give one message to every law enforcement officer listening, hopefully watching on YouTube right now, about training, readiness, or personal growth, what would that be?
So never stop learning is what my message is. Constantly be looking for training, constantly be looking for opportunities to better yourself. There's so much training out there, and it doesn't even have to be with us. There are so many opportunities out there that, you can learn from this instructor something totally different that you're going to learn from one of our instructors. That's great. Learn so many different perspectives, immerse yourself in the areas that you're interested in, things that are going to help grow you in your career, but never stop trying to figure out what's next and just bettering yourself as a person. Training isn't just, something that you get told you have to do. There's a reason why you're going to training. So don't go in there with the attitude of like, man, I got sent here, I have to do this training. Go in with the attitude of you're going to take something away. Like, even if it's just one little thing, you're going to take something away that's going to grow in dividends over time. So that's my message of just be willing to learn.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Before we wrap this up, anything else you want to add?
No, I appreciate you giving me the platform to speak and meeting with you. Anything you need from us at any time, you can always find us at patc.com, and we're happy to be a resource for anything you need at any time.
Yeah. And for people watching and listening, and I will put their website link in the show notes, there is just an awesome menu of courses and instructors. It's very impressive. As Katie said earlier, I really believe there's no excuse for not giving your officers, your deputies, and your professional staff, because a lot of times we forget our civilian staff. There's no excuse for not getting them training, especially the ones that are constantly looking. You heard Katie say, you can host a class, you can get free seats. So, I mean, there's really no excuse for our officers not to be getting cutting edge training every day, all day, as much as they want. So again, Katie, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you adding value to members of the Thin Blue Line. And for everybody else, I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Blue Leader Nation podcast. Our passion is anyone within the thin blue line who want to take it to the next level. We hope you didn't mind the dad jokes, by the way. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at www.blueleadernation.com.
532, you're assigned to a vandalism case in Athens. Did you copy